Welcome to Chapter 6.1, Part 2, Reading a Tape Measure. Measuring tape fractions. So 16ths, the tape measure is usually broken up into 16ths, and here are the 16ths, which are all the little lines on a tape measure. Or a ruler also has a similar situation. So we go from 1/16 right here, this is 0, 1/16 all the way to 1, which is 16/16. The next set of little lines that we're going to deal with is the eighths. And the eighths are the blue ones here. We have 1/8, this is 0/8 we start with, then 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8 is equal to 1. The next bigger lines we're going to deal with is the fourths. And the fourths are the black ones here. So 0/4 we start from the beginning, then 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then finally 4/4, which is 1. And then in the middle here, in the gray, is 1/2. So 0/2, 1/2, which is a half, and then 2/2, which is 2/2, which is 1. So this is how our measuring tape is divided. A standard measuring tape or ruler is divided up into feet and inches. Each foot is divided into 12 inches. The problem starts with the subdivision of inches. In each inch, there are a number of lines of different lengths like we just described. The longest line in the inch is in the middle. This is the half mark. That was the one we said was in gray on the other slide. 2/2 is equal to 1 inch. The next shortest line is 1/4 inch, 1/4 of an inch, and there are only 2 of these marked on the measuring tape. So here we have 1/4 of an inch, 1/4, and then here is 3/4, and those are the quarter ones. Of course, this can be 2/4 here, the middle one, but that's also 1/2 an inch. And these are the 4/4, which equal 1 inch. The third shortest line is the eighth, 1/8 of an inch, and the measuring tape only shows 4 of these. We show the eighths in red, so 0/8, 1/8, this would be 2/8, 3/8, this would be 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and of course 8/8 is equal to 1 inch. And the smallest, and that would be in between the eighths, would be 1/16 of an inch. If you need accuracy, you would need a tape that can measure 1/16. So here we did 1/16 of an inch to get greater accuracy. The shortest line is 1/16 of an inch, and there are 8 of these shown. If you count the distance between the inch mark, 1 inch, you'll find 16 lines. So here we have all these lines can represent 16ths, and here we have all those lines, and when we add them up, there are 16 of them, so 16/16 is equal to 1 inch, and then 8/16 is equal to 1/2 of an inch. And 4/16 is equal to 1/4 of an inch. Because we like to express fractional numbers in the largest unit possible, we call it 1 inch. So it follows if you have 8 lines or 8/16 inches, you have a half an inch, or written 1/2 inches. And likewise, if you have 4 little ones or 4/16, you have 1/4 of an inch and so on. So reviewing what we just showed, here are 16ths where we break the 1 inch up into 16 16ths. Next we break it up into eighths, 8 eighths to make 1 inch. Next we break it up into fourths, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 in the black. And then 1/2 an inch in the gray. And we see that 2 halves make up 1 inch. In example number 1, we want to figure out what the length is of this red line. So let us go over to the whiteboard and see how we would do this one.
So for my example, I magnified one of these units here. I guess that here. So here we have 2 inches. So I magnified it here. And we're going to look at that, the first 2 inches in the case of these examples. And we're going to ask ourselves, what is the length of the red line? So I'm going to fill in the red line. Of course, it looks much better in your PowerPoint or your workbook than in my my drawing here. And I'm going to figure out where this arrow ends. So I'll just drop a perpendicular. And I see that it stops at the first eighth. So it turns out that the length of the red line is 1 1/8 inches.
Reviewing what we just did, but on a much clearer ruler, we see that the red line stops at an eighth, because this is a 16th, and this is 1. So here's our whole, here's our 16th, here's our eighth. So we have 1 plus 1/8, which is the same thing as 1 1/8 inches. In our next example, we want to see where the red line ends. So let us go over to the whiteboard and I'll show you how to do this one.
Now we see, for example number 2, that the red line doesn't quite come all the way out to the 1. So we have to see how far out does the red line go out from where we begin to where we end. And here, since it's on the blue, which is the eighths, this is an eighth, and there are 7 of these, so there's going to have to be another one of those. So that means that this is 7/8 of an inch, or inches.
So we just saw that the red line ends at 7/8. So here we see it stops at an eighth line. So we go back and we can see that indeed we count all the lines it bumps into as we go along. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means, and this line that it stops at is an eighth line, so it's 7/8. In example number 3, we want to find the length of this red line. So let us go over to the whiteboard and do this one.
For number 3, the red line extends all the way to this other red line right here. And we know that that means a half. So we have 1 and 1/2. So that means that this is 1½ inches.
In example number 3, on a much better ruler, we look where the red arrow ends. So here, it's the longest line, so we go along here and we see nothing else as we go along. We go in a straight line across here. All these are smaller than it, so that means that is the 1/2 line right here. So that means this is 1½ inches. In example number 4, we want to know what is the length of this red line. So let us go over to the whiteboard and do this one.
Now for number 4, we see that the red line goes out to here where that blue line is, and we know that the blue lines represent 1/8 of an inch, so we want to see how many does that cover. So I drop the perpendicular here, and we have 1, 2, 3/8, because that, remember, even though it's a quarter, it still is 2/8. So that means we have 3/8 of an inch, or 3/8 inches. However you want to express it.
So we see the line ends on one of the 1/8 lines. So we go back to figure out how many there are, meaning how many 1/8 this red line covers. So we only look at the lines that are the same size or larger than that 1/8 line when we work backwards. So we have 1, 2, 3. So that means that this red line is 3/8 of an inch. In example number 5, we want to see what is the length of this red line. So let us go to the whiteboard and work this one out.
And for example number 5, the red line goes all the way out here. So that means if we drop a perpendicular, meaning just a line to just see where we are. And it looks like if we were to count, we see we end up with the 1/16. So and if we were to count from here to here, so we have the 1, and then we have from here to here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13/16 of an inch, or inches. In
example number 5, we see that the red line stops at one of the smallest ones. So that means we have to count all the lines, because if we go straight across here, we bump into everything. So that means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 before we get to the 1, and those little ones are 1/16, so we add the 13/16 to 1, and we get 1 13/16 of an inch. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be well, take care, and goodbye for now.